Tonight, we bring you a Disney Halloween treat.
I hope your nerves are steady.
We give you our Halloween guest of honor. And now, it's time for a Disney Halloween.
October has been my favorite month of the year since I was a child, and the topic of this video may just be the #1 reason why. Today on MacDocs Disney, we'll be diving into some of the history behind Disney's made-for-TV Halloween specials. Now, I won't get anywhere near covering them all, as the company has produced many features that could fall into this category. I'm simply touching on some of my personal favorites that always put me in the Halloween spirit this time of year. Now, I'm not one to beat around the bush, so I'm going to start with what I'd consider to be the gold standard, a feature that just so happens to be half of my favorite Disney film of all time, 1949's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. The film's theatrical release was in October of 1949, but it wasn't until October of 1955 that the cartoon made its small screen debut in Walt's Disneyland Anthology series. Here, it was preceded by Walt's typical show opening and a 14-minute animated piece documenting the life of Washington Irving, the acclaimed author who wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow in 1820. I'm not going to dive too deeply into the movie itself because a video dedicated solely to the film it was created for is definitely in the works, as is the case for most early Disney animated features. But from start to finish, many agree that this feature captures the true spirit of the season in every form. From the stunning fall backgrounds of Sleepy Hollow, to the opening shot of the graveyard, to the Halloween party itself, and of course the meeting of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman during the finale. Legendary crooner Bing Crosby narrates and loosely voices each character in the picture, and of course sings several songs throughout as well. All in all, you can't go wrong with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow when you're looking to put yourself in a fun and spooky mood during the Halloween season. The next of my selections is actually a 1983 educational short entitled Disney's Haunted Halloween. It's a compilation piece, as are several of my entries on this list, that's hosted by Goofy and a certain pumpkin narrator that we'll hear more from shortly as well. Most of the animated selections made are from vintage Goofy shorts and Disney Halloween shorts from years past. The segments are pieced together to tell their own story, including a brief history of Halloween, some safety tips for trick-or-treating, and a few spooky anecdotes along the way. The premise of this one is simple and light, but still carries a lot of the traditional qualities you'd expect from a holiday compilation piece made by Disney in this era. My final two entries go hand in hand, as they were made just 1 year apart and include a lot of the same footage and segments. I'm talking about 1982's Disney's Halloween Treat and 1983's A Disney Halloween. As you can probably tell from the titles, some aspects of these films are identical, just reordered and spun a little differently by, you guessed it, our pumpkin narrator. These two titles are essentially the reason I'm making these videos. They were my favorite specials to watch on the Disney Channel as a little kid, and I still appreciate them today. We'll go in chronological order and begin with Disney's Halloween Treat. It aired on October 30th, 1982 as part of the Wonderful World of Disney, as did A Disney Halloween a year later. It's a segmented special showcasing spooky scenes from Disney animated films and shorts, all spliced together by the voice of our pumpkin, Hal Douglas. The segments include The Wizard's Duel from Sword in the Stone, highlighting Mad Madam Mim and her wickedness, or as our narrator describes her,
A real, honest-to-goodness witch.
The following segment is the Night on Bald Mountain sequence from Fantasia, and I have to say, even today this one gives me the creeps, much less 5-year-old me viewing it for the first time. The whole premise is literally the winged creature Chernabog, who in Fantasia was actually introduced as Satan, summoning spirits from a graveyard at the base of his mountain to come and be tormented by him. Visually, this piece is stunning, especially for 1940, and definitely provides more scares than it does laughs. From there, we move on to a few different clips with narration, including a scene from Mickey's Parrot, where Mickey is certain a killer has broken into his house and is looking to off him with a double-barreled shotgun. We then cross over into a classic Donald Duck short entitled Donald Duck and the Gorilla, where a gigantic gorilla who has escaped from the zoo breaks into the duck residence and tries to get a piece of Donald and his nephews. Next, we have 3 classic Pluto shorts spliced into one story. The main story being Pluto's Judgment Day, where he dreams he's being put on trial by a group of cats that are a little biased to their own species as opposed to his. The special then goes into narrated pieces highlighting 4 villains from Disney films: Captain Hook from Peter Pan, Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, the Evil Queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Cyan from Lady and the Tramp. Disney's Halloween treat then ends with the tail end of, again, my favorite special, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it caps off with one final haunting line from our narrator.
See you tomorrow. Maybe.
Followed by the special's theme song. Okay, now we move on to a Disney Halloween that was released as part of the same program just a year later in '83. This one is my personal favorite of the two. It opens with a word from then Disney CEO Michael Eisner, who was greeted by a disguised Mickey and Minnie and eventually Goofy, who's dressed up as Eisner.
Hiya, guys. What do you think?
Wow, that's a swell costume, don't you think, Michael?
It's okay. It's okay.
We then get the same song and dance that Halloween Treat ended with to begin this special, and of course the title is changed from
Disney's Halloween Treat
to
A Disney Halloween.
In this special, Mad Madam Mim's segment is swapped with Night on Bald Mountain, so we kick things off on the heavier side before we're introduced to Merlin and Mim. We are then shown the 1937 silly symphony The Old Mill, which has no dialogue and shows a peaceful windmill quickly turn into a frightening sight due to a heavy storm that rattles both it and the animals that inhabit it. We then get the same Mickey's parrot and gorilla bit from before, but this time they're followed by the 1968 acid trip of a segment called Heffalumps and Woozles from Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day that was later added to the 1977 Disney feature film The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. From there we get the same Pluto's Judgment segment, followed by an interesting piece from Walt's Disneyland series called The Truth About Cats. This 1956 animated short is overdubbed by the narrator and tells of how cats used to be cast out and thought of as evil spirits by many. When I was younger, the scariest part of this one for me was the deranged look in the old lady's eyes throughout the piece, and I recall a time when it genuinely creeped me out to watch this part. A similar Cyan piece from Lady and the Tramp is introduced, and we are then met by a live-action magic mirror who is voiced by legendary actor Hans Conried.
You know, I've been hanging around here for centuries, and what I've seen has given me plenty for reflection.
What follows are pieces snipped from both Disney's Halloween Treat and 1977's Disney's Greatest Villains. The magic mirror tells of how the villains in each Disney film are what makes the pictures exciting and how they're often overlooked. He brings plenty of examples to the table. Again, Captain Hook, the Evil Queen, Cruella de Vil, but includes Edgar the Butler from the Aristocats, Willie the Giant from Fun and Fancy Free, Shere Khan and Kaa from The Jungle Book, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, Lady Tremaine from Cinderella, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and a personal favorite of mine, Madame Medusa from The Rescuers. Once things get a little out of hand, the magic mirror disappears from view, and the special closes with 2 classic Halloween-themed shorts. Lonesome Ghosts, which sees Mickey, Donald, and Goofy visit an abandoned haunted house as ghost hunters, and perhaps the best Disney Halloween short of all, Trick or Treat, which features the original June Foray-voiced Witch Hazel helping Huey, Dewey, and Louie get even with Donald after he goes a little too far with the tricks on Halloween night. The short is a perfect way to end a packed Halloween special, as well as our first volume of Disney Halloween specials. I hope you enjoyed our little trip down memory lane. We'll see you next time on MacDocs Disney.